So, Season 10, Episode 2, Smile. I thought that this episode was okay. Let me start off with the positives. First off, the direction and cinematography of this episode were beautiful, and the city was very well designed. Second, Nardole, for once. I have to say it, but in the 30-some seconds he was in this episode, he was actually better than he was in his entire 3 episodes up until this point combined. And that adds credence to my hypothesis that it was Stephen Moffat that was really crushing him, because in his first episode where Stephen Moffat didn't write him, he was good. He had a purpose for once, and it added some intrigue to his character, such as, why is he so determined to keep the Doctor guarding the vault? And brings up the questions such as whether the Doctor lied about why he rebuilt Nardole, or whether it was him who fixed up Nardole in the first place. I'm also going to say that I actually did think he was funny in this episode. The 30 seconds he was in it, when he just kind of went, and narrowed his eyes when the Doctor said he was just traveling up to his office. Also, speaking of the vault, I am very pleased with how that story arc is coming along, but I'll talk more about that in my Wishes versus Reality sections. Another positive is Bill. I think that she is working wonderfully with Capaldi, and the two have real chemistry together. I also liked when Bill pointed out the advice and assistance obtainable immediately sign on the TARDIS door. It was very clever, and I'm surprised that no one had pointed it out before. Unfortunately, Frank Cottrell-Boyce kept bringing it up throughout the episode until I was tired of hearing about it. What started as a clever little observation turned into an annoying allegory. Speaking of Frank Cottrell-Boyce, the negatives, starting with the writing. While the dialogue between the Doctor and Bill was quite nice, everything else on the writing front failed, especially when it came to the plot. Whenever I watch a Doctor Who episode, it starts with a 10 out of 10, and then I gradually deduct points as it goes along, and I will say that for a good while, Smile was hovering quite high. The atmosphere that was built up was excellent. I was legitimately intrigued as to what the villains were doing, and what was going on in the episode, and all that fun stuff. But looking back on it, I think that was more down to the direction and interesting concepts than the actual writing. Once again, beautiful direction by Lawrence Goff. Simply gorgeous. As I suspected, the episode did play out a lot like the Happiness Patrol. Though I have a general idea as to the concept of the Happiness Patrol, I have not actually seen it yet. Stupid out-of-production episodes. It's number 2 on my list. Anyway, well, I do know what the Happiness Patrol is about roughly. I haven't seen it, so I can't really compare the similarities and differences between it and Smile. But I don't think Smile really took much from it other than the you die if you aren't happy thing. The rest of Smile just doesn't really feel like something Doctor Who would have done in the McCoy era. But talking about Smile's concepts, I'm going to say that almost all of the concepts that this episode put forward were excellently realized, and it was legitimately unsettling when, in the beginning of the episode, when the woman is saying, like, oh, they're dead, they're all dead, everyone's dead, smiling happily. That was really creepy. Anyway, it started off good and interesting, but much like in The Forest of the Night, Cottrell-Boyce's other contribution to Doctor Who, as soon as it reached Act 2, the entire thing fell apart. The exposition and rising action, where the episode relied on atmosphere, and thus more heavily on direction, played out fine. But as soon as the episode got into Acts 2 and 3, and the writing kicked in, it all fell to pieces. First off, the Doctor said he was going to blow up the colony. I was expecting the rest of the story to be a simple one, where the Doctor and Bill set off the explosion, and then the rest of the episode would be them trying to escape the Vardae and making it back to the TARDIS before the colony exploded. That would have been great. It would have been exciting and easy to follow. Unfortunately, the creating of the microbots made it so that thing would have been impossible, because the Doctor and Bill would have been dead in 15 seconds flat. I did think that the Vardae were suitably frightening in the beginning, and up until about the middle of the episode. For example, when one of them was sneaking up behind the Doctor, it was legitimately frightening, but then at some point after that, they really lost any form of intimidation for me. I think the thoughtful emoji face was one that killed them, because I'd be watching those creepy, emotionless smiles and evil skull faces, and then they'd turn into the thoughtful face, and I'd remember that the Doctor was literally fighting emoji monsters. So, basically, once we reached the end of Act 2, what I would call when the humans woke up, the episode was hovering around a 7 out of 10. Then we entered Act 3. First off, I would like to say that the introduction of the human colonists and the extra complication of the humans still being alive was completely unnecessary and detracted from the episode more than it gave. I guess Frank Cottrell-Boyce thought he needed more characters? Or maybe he just wanted to set up a Moffat twist at the end of the episode, but whatever it was, I didn't give two figs for any of the other humans because they were brought in about 5 minutes till the end of the episode, well into Act 3, which, by writing rules, should be when all of the pieces set into play in Act 1 and some in Act 2 all come together to form a satisfying conclusion. You do not introduce new elements 5 minutes before the episode ends, because A, it brings the momentum of the episode to a complete halt as it has to slow down to introduce these new characters, and B, because you have known these characters for literally 3 minutes, you do not care what happens to them. I don't remember any of their names. I just remember them as Beard Guy and Kid. In fact, I don't think their names were given at all during the episode. This is not how you should remember characters, unless they are given a title or specifically avoided giving a name, such as in Midnight. In Midnight, they don't name the hostess once, but that is by design, and she is given sufficient character to make us care about her without a name, and she was also given the title of hostess, which she is called by multiple times. In fact, I'm going to compare the characters in Midnight to the characters in Smile. In Midnight, Act 1 is used to establish the setting and characters, giving each character specific scenes and lines through which to introduce them. The conflict is introduced in Act 2 and resolved in Act 3. If Midnight took the Smile route, then it would have been the Doctor, the companion, and another person traveling on the Crusader vehicle, and then the entity would have showed up and taken over the other person, and then all of the other characters would have showed up on the rescue vehicle 5 minutes before the episode ended. That would have been terrible and would have ruined the episode, and that is Smile's problem. It introduces the conflict before the characters, and that makes it so that we do not care about the characters, and because of that, the time in Act 3 where the Doctor should have been devising a resolution to the Vardy was instead giving to introducing a bunch of characters we neither knew nor cared about. A way around this could have been the Doctor and Bill not going back to the TARDIS in the first place, and instead going straight to the rocket ship where some survivors have locked themselves inside with the cryogenically frozen people, and then they help the Doctor to solve the problem. It would have given the characters more purpose, would have strengthened the plot, and given us more time to get to know them. Instead, we got this rushed, barely explained mess of a resolution. So, after the Doctor, Bill, Beard Guy, and the rest of the humans leave the ship looking for Kid, they find Kid being menaced by the Vardy. At this point, I should have been scared for the Kid's life, but I honestly didn't care. He could have died and I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. The Beard Guy shoots the Vardy, holding the Kid, and destroys it. And then the Doctor says something about the Vardy becoming sentient and creates a big white explosion and leaves nothing resolved. Allow me to break down everything wrong with this. First, the Vardy are now apparently a sentient race, despite no reason or purpose for that being given. Throughout the episode, they behaved very much like robots. The fact that they are sentient is not hinted at any point prior in the episode, which makes it a huge deus ex machina, one of the cardinal sins of storytelling. Additionally, there is no purpose in their being sentient. It serves no purpose in the episode and does not help lead towards a resolution or any greater moral or anything. It's just a pointless diversion from the plot. Another major problem with the resolution is, what I have already mentioned, none of the characters who are actually in danger of being killed in this situation, the humans, have character or likability, greatly bringing down the suspense. I at no point thought the Doctor was in danger during the black moment where all seems lost. And while I know that the Doctor is never really in danger in any episode, a good episode forces you to suspend that knowledge. For instance, I knew that the Doctor wasn't going to be trapped for eternity in Heaven Sent, but everything was so well laid out that even though I knew that, I did feel like the Doctor was going to be trapped for forever. In the Satan Pit, I did feel like the Doctor had died when he disconnected the wire, even though I knew that he was fine. A good story can make a plot-armored character feel like they are legitimately in danger, and it is something that Smile fails at. Another problem with the resolution is that there is no resolution. The Doctor just wipes the memories of the Vardy, but says that he kept all of their functions intact, which means the necessity to make humans happy was left intact, which means that as soon as someone dies, the entire process is going to restart itself, and all of the humans will die horribly. The Doctor intended to make sure that what happened before in the colony did not happen again, but he did not do that. He basically just reset the colony to how it was before everything bad happened, with everything exactly the same, with all of the same problems, which means the same thing will happen again. You see what I'm getting at here. Also, again, we have an enemy that is defeated by a flick of the sonic screwdriver and by pressing a reset button. Not quite as bad as the Shakri in The Power of Three, but still bad. The reset button is the ultimate lazy resolution because it shows that the writer could not think of any way out of the situation he put the Doctor into, or could not be bothered to find a legitimate resolution to get the Doctor out of the situation he has been put into. The ultimate resolution of Smile was never hinted at in the episode and included a pointless twist that added nothing to the episode and ultimately ended unresolved. Basically, what you have with Smile is an episode that started off good with some nice atmosphere, but fell to pieces when the writing came into play, culminating in a horrid conclusion that leaves nothing resolved. I feel like Frank Cottrell-Boyce was trying to capture Moffat's formula for episodes that he used in episodes such as Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, where an episode starts off with some atmosphere, and then explanations come in, and all of that atmosphere is immediately dispelled, culminating in the writer having written himself into a hole and being forced to save the day with a forced deus ex machina that is never really explained. Just compare Journey to the Center of the TARDIS to Smile. The similarities are striking. I remember watching Smile and seeing that at 3 minutes to 10, the resolution hadn't even begun, and I knew that we were in store for a weak, rushed conclusion, and I was completely right. The ending was rushed, unexplained, and didn't really resolve anything, so it basically failed in every category when it comes to good resolutions. So overall, the writing, especially in Act 3, is where Smile fails the most. There are, of course, some other smaller negatives, such as the music and sound effects being much too loud, especially in the latter half of the episode. I often struggle to hear what the actors were saying, and in an episode where explanations are already thin, that makes them even more vital to hear. So, overall, Smile was an episode that started off good, with some interesting concepts, and fell to pieces once the writing came into play. Overall, I will give it a 6 out of 10 in enjoyability, and a 4 out of 10 when compared to other Doctor Who episodes. This is something new I'm going to start doing. I'm now going to be rating the episodes both on how I enjoyed them as a whole compared to other media, and on how they stack up to other Doctor Who stories. So now, on to my wishes versus reality. This time, I'm not going to be including series-long goals, and just ones that apply differently to each episode. Number 1. Consistent in-character writing for the 12th Doctor. This one is a pass. I've seen better, but then I have also seen much worse. Number 2, the Doctor is not Space Jesus. I'll also give it a pass on this one. The Doctor was a bit more in control than he probably should have been in this situation, but overall it wasn't that bad. Number 3, the Companion is not the most important person in the universe. Another pass, but once again, the real problems with this wish usually don't come into play until later on in the season. Number 4, a good story arc. Another pass. While the story arc was mainly absent from this episode, what we saw of it was good. It added to it and added to the intrigue. What is it about it that makes it so important that the Doctor has to stay on Earth to guard it? I also really like that the Doctor is stuck on Earth, as it is a nice throwback to the 3rd Doctor, which Peter Capaldi based his Doctor on. Even though I think the 12th Doctor is more similar to the 4th Doctor than the 3rd Doctor. Anyway, not important. And finally, number 5. No dated references. Complete and utter failure. Considering that the villain is literally emoji bots. There were times that I felt like it was going to be a satire or a critique of modern life, which would have made it excusable, but it just didn't go the full 9 yards, and so it still fails. So, overall, Smile did pretty good on the wish front with a 4 out of 5. And that was my review for Season 10, Episode 2, Smile, an episode with some interesting concepts that is let down by terrible writing and by falling into all of the same traps that other episodes have fallen into before. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next week for Thin Ice, which, by the trailer, I think will be interesting, although I am a little disappointed that the villain seems to be a whale, or a whale-like creature, and not a huge eyeball monster. It's still going to be fun, and I'm fairly certain I'm going to enjoy it, assuming that it's good, but it feels it's going to be a bit like The Beast Below. Anyway, I will see you then.